I never thought a family dinner could change everything. It was supposed to be a normal evening, just another meal with my mother, my aunt, and a few cousins. I didn't expect anything special, just the usual small talk, some gossip, and maybe a few passive-aggressive comments thrown my way, nothing I hadn't handled before. But that night something was different. My cousin James had his phone propped up against a glass, casually scrolling and laughing at whatever was on his screen. He's always been obsessed with social media, constantly filming everything, but I barely paid attention. I was too busy eating in silence, trying to ignore the usual side-eye glances from my mother. Then, out of nowhere, she started talking about me. Loudly. "She's such a desperate failure," she said, picking up her glass of wine like she was just discussing the weather. 30 years old, no husband, no kids, no real accomplishments. Pathetic, really. The words hit me like a slap. My stomach twisted, and for a second I thought I hadn't heard her right, but then she laughed, an ugly, sharp laugh, and my aunt chuckled along with her. I felt my face heat up, but I kept my head down, gripping my fork. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing me react. I'd heard hurtful things from her before, but this was cruel. Especially after everything I had done for her. 5 years. 5 long years of quietly paying her medical bills, covering expenses she never even thanked me for. I never asked for recognition. I never held it over her head. But I thought deep down she at least respected me. I was wrong. And then, something caught my eye. A flickering light on James's phone. The way his eyes kept darting to the screen. It took me a second to realize what was happening. He was live streaming. I froze. My mother had no idea that her cruel words weren't just heard by the people at the table. They were being broadcasted. Right now. To the internet. And the comment section? It was exploding. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, chewing my food, letting her words wash over me like background noise. It wasn't the first time she'd insulted me, and I had no doubt it wouldn't be the last. But tonight was different. Tonight she wasn't just hurting me. She was showing the world exactly who she was. So I stayed quiet. She kept going, her voice dripping with amusement as she took another sip of her wine. Honestly, I don't know how she even looks at herself in the mirror. No man wants her. No one even talks about her. She's just there, waiting for life to happen, like some sad little extra in a movie no one's watching. My aunt laughed. Well, at least she tries. Bless her heart. Bless her heart. That phrase had haunted me since childhood, always used to mask an insult with fake sweetness. But there was nothing sweet about this moment. James, still glued to his phone, barely looked up. His fingers swiped over the screen, the glow of it flickering in the dim dining room. I glanced at the reflection on his glass. The screen was full of comments. Moving fast. People were watching. I let my eyes shift to my mother, who was still talking like she was the star of some comedy special. I mean, how much longer is she going to embarrass herself? Still chasing dreams that'll never come true? It's actually sad to watch. I felt something in my chest tighten, but I willed myself to keep still. No reaction, no tears, no words. Instead, I picked up my glass of water and took a slow sip, acting like nothing was happening. Like I wasn't witnessing my own public humiliation in real time. Like I didn't see the hundreds, maybe thousands of people now tuning in, commenting, reacting. My cousin had no idea. He was just filming, just being his usual social media-obsessed self, completely unaware of the storm brewing on the other side of that screen. The internet was watching, judging, and, most importantly, remembering every single thing my mother was saying. And I let it happen. I let her keep talking, let her dig her own grave with every cruel word, every nasty remark. Because for once, I didn't have to defend myself. I didn't have to argue or beg for her to see my worth. This time, the world was listening. And the world wasn't on her side. By the time I got home, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. It started with a single notification, then another, then a flood. I tossed my keys on the table, kicked off my shoes, and finally checked my screen. My stomach dropped. There were hundreds of messages. At first, I thought something bad had happened. Maybe work was trying to reach me, or maybe there was some kind of emergency. But as I scrolled, the reality hit me. Screenshots, video clips, reactions, my mother's words, every cruel, mocking thing she had said were everywhere. People had taken the live stream, cut it into clips, and shared it all over social media. Some had even added subtitles highlighting each insult, making sure nothing was missed. I swallowed hard. The comment sections were on fire. Strangers were outraged. Some people couldn't believe a mother could speak that way about her own daughter. Others were dissecting her words, calling her toxic, heartless, and worse. Then the direct messages started. People I hadn't spoken to in years were reaching out. Old friends, co-workers, even distant relatives I barely remembered. I just saw the video. Are you okay? I can't believe she said that about you. You don't deserve this. You've always been hardworking and kind. Don't let her words get to you. I blinked at my screen, overwhelmed. These were people who had no reason to defend me. Some of them had probably forgotten I even existed until now. But here they were, standing up for me in a way my own mother never had. Then I saw something that made my heart race. The video had gone viral. Not just a few shares among friends. Not just a small group of people gossiping. We were talking millions of views. The comment sections were filled with people sharing their own stories, talking about toxic family members, saying how much they related. And then there were the ones calling for consequences. She doesn't deserve a daughter like you. Stop paying for her medical bills. Let's see how she survives without you. I hope she sees this and realizes she lost the best thing in her life. I let out a breath I didn't even know I was holding. For years I had swallowed my pain, convinced myself that maybe I was overreacting, that maybe deep down she loved me but just didn't know how to show it. But now, the world had seen her for who she really was. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. The moment I decided to cut her off, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't anger, it wasn't sadness, it was relief. A weight I had carried for years was finally gone. I picked up my phone, scrolled to her contact, and without hesitation blocked her number. No more calls, no more messages, no more last-minute guilt trips. Just silence. Then, I went into my banking app and removed my automatic payments for her medical bills. I had been covering them for 5 years, without a single thank you. She never asked where the money came from, never even acknowledged the sacrifice I was making. She just expected it, as if it was my duty to take care of her while she tore me down behind my back. Not anymore. For the first few days, I heard nothing. It was almost eerie. I thought maybe somehow she hadn't noticed. Maybe she still thought of me as too weak, too desperate for her approval to ever walk away. Then, a week later, the calls started. Not from her. She was still blocked. But from unknown numbers. At first, I ignored them, assuming they were spam. But then, the voicemails came in. You need to call your mother back. The hospital just called. Her payment didn't go through. She's in a panic. How could you do this to your own mother? She's sick. Are you really going to let her suffer? I listened to each one, my heart steady. The old me would have panicked, felt guilty, maybe even rushed to fix everything before she got mad. But the new me, the one who had just been humiliated in front of millions of people, that me didn't feel guilty at all. If she was truly sick, I had no doubt she'd find a way to get help. She had plenty of friends when she wanted to gossip. She had no problem treating my sister like gold while treating me like garbage. Let them step up. Let them see what it felt like to be used and discarded. And just like that, her power over me was gone. She had always called me a failure, always made me feel small, but now when she needed me the most, I was nowhere to be found. She had pushed me away for years. She just never thought I'd actually leave. But I did. And I wasn't coming back. The voicemails kept coming. At first, they were angry. You ungrateful brat. After everything I've done for you, you just abandon me? You think you're so special now, huh? Just wait. you'll come crawling back. I deleted them without listening to the end. I had expected this. She wasn't used to being ignored, wasn't used to me setting boundaries. In her mind, I was still that desperate little girl, always trying to prove myself, always hoping for her approval. But I wasn't that girl anymore. Then, the messages started changing. I didn't mean it. You know how I joke around. Come on, sweetheart, don't be so sensitive. You know I love you. Funny. She hadn't been laughing when she said I was a pathetic failure. She had meant every single word. The apologies kept coming, each one more desperate than the last. I'm sorry, okay? Just call me back. Let's talk. You can't just cut me off like this. I'm your mother. I stared at my phone, unread messages piling up. The woman who had mocked me, belittled me, and treated me like nothing was suddenly begging. But I felt nothing. No guilt, no sadness, just clarity. She wasn't sorry for what she had done. She was sorry she had been exposed. She was sorry she had lost her lifeline, and she wasn't laughing anymore. A few days later, another voicemail came in. Her voice was shaky, almost unrecognizable. Please, I need you. The hospital bill, they won't treat me if I don't pay. My fingers hovered over the delete button. The old me would have panicked, rushed to fix it. But this time, I let the silence stretch between us. She had spent years breaking me down, treating me like an embarrassment. But now, when she had no one left to turn to, suddenly, I was important. Number. She had made it clear what she thought of me. And now, so would I. I blocked every unknown number, stopped checking the voicemails, stopped wondering if she had changed, because deep down, I knew the truth. She wasn't sorry. She was just desperate, and I wasn't her safety net anymore. For days, I ignored the messages, the voicemails, the constant calls from unknown numbers, but they never stopped. At first, she tried guilt. You can't just walk away from family. I raised you. I took care of you. And this is how you repay me. Then, she switched to begging. Please, I need you. You know I don't have anyone else. Just talk to me. And when that didn't work, she turned to full-blown panic. The hospital won't treat me without payment. I'm sick. I need your help. Are you really going to let your own mother suffer? That one almost got to me. Almost. Because for years, I had been the one suffering. I had been the one longing for a mother's love, for a kind word, for anything other than the constant belittling and humiliation. I had given, and given, and given, until there was nothing left of me. And the one time I needed something in return, she had laughed. Laughed while calling me pathetic. Laughed while tearing me apart in front of family, in front of strangers on the internet. Laughed because, in her eyes, I was nothing. But she wasn't laughing anymore. I stared at my phone at the dozens of messages piling up, and then, without overthinking it, I finally responded. A single message. I'm just a desperate failure, remember? You don't need me. And then, I blocked her. For good. No more chances. No more listening to excuses. No more hoping she'd change. I was done. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. And it felt damn good. The video didn't just fade away, it kept circulating, popping up on different platforms, getting reshared by people who had never even met me. Every time I thought it had died down, someone else would post a reaction, another clip, another breakdown of what she had said. And it didn't take long for the whispers to start. People in our town saw it. Neighbours, old friends, even the people she used to gossip with. At first, they probably watched out of curiosity, expecting something funny, something lighthearted. Instead, they got a front-row seat to who she really was. And suddenly, she wasn't the poor, struggling mother everyone felt sorry for anymore. Some of her so-called friends stopped coming around, the ones who used to sit with her, drink coffee, and talk about how disappointing I was. They weren't interested in hearing her stories anymore. Her usual grocery store trips, where she loved to chat up the cashier and complain about me. Awkward silence. Some people avoided eye contact, others whispered as she walked past. A few even called her out directly. "Wow, I saw that video, and you actually said all that about your own daughter." She had spent years making me feel small, making me believe I was nothing. But now people saw the truth, and she had no one to blame but herself. She tried to act like it didn't bother her, but I knew better. I knew how much she loved playing the victim, how much she needed sympathy. And now, there was none left for her. But the best part? I wasn't even there to see it. I wasn't around to witness her downfall, to hear her excuses, to give her another chance. Because I was too busy living my life. For the first time, I was free. Free from the weight of her words. Free from the constant need for approval. Free from bending over backward just to prove I was worthy of love she was never going to give me. And I was thriving. I had my own place. A job I loved. Friends who actually cared about me. And for the first time in my life, I was happy without her. She had called me pathetic, but now she was the one being avoided. She had called me a desperate failure, but now she was the one scrambling, begging for people to listen, to care. And me? I didn't care at all.